and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup, and Merry Christmas.
And happy Boxing Day when we're pretending to tape this show.
We're actually doing it a few days early so we can have Christmas off. Usually at this time of year, we look at each other, we say, what should we do? Should we get people in here? Should we discuss what happened during the year? What did happen during the year? We can sometimes never remember because we're only looking ahead.
Right.
But this was a big year. There
Tremendous.
was a lot of stuff that happened.
I mean, the biggest thing, of course, was winning our federal marriage rights from the Supreme Court, of all people.
And from Time Magazine's third most important person of the year, Edie Windsor, our heroine.
And the United States Senate, for the first time, passed the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, even though it had a very massive religious exemption that we hope to get rid of in the future.
We certainly do. And, you know, maybe it'll be taken up in the House and maybe it won't. Most people think not. I think, you know, they could attach it to another one of these defense bills that
Maybe.
sends the military around the world
Maybe.
and jacks that up.
But there was a lot of bad news from New York to Russia. You know, we had a wave of anti-gay attacks and murders here, including of a trans person and a gay man.
And, of course, a lot of news internationally, as there always is, with a huge focus this year on what's going on in Russia with attacks on LGBT people and under the auspices of the new anti-gay propaganda law.
Right.
But rather than sit here and discuss all this and bring in guests and whatever, we decided to do something that we haven't done, which is refer to some of this and some other stuff by showing you some videos that we've been piling up in the last few months and wanting to show you, but never quite having time to because we're always so busy.
And we're going to show you as much of them as we can. And if you're on our email list by writing to me at andyhum@aol.com, you can get on that email list and we'll send you the links to these videos so you can share them with your friends.
So marriage was the big news. We got, what, 8 new states legalizing marriage this year?
Did. Illinois, New Jersey, California, Delaware, Hawaii, Minnesota, Rhode Island, and Maryland.
So now we have 16 states. We have the District of Columbia. We have revolutions breaking out all over, everywhere from New Mexico to Pennsylvania to the South.
Love is busting out all over.
And new court cases every day, and it's really exploding. So there's an organization that makes videos called Kids React, and these are just, you know, might as well be Art Linkletter. Kids say the darndest things.
Right, and you'll remember the video of the guy who proposed in the Home Depot to his partner in Utah, in Salt Lake City, was it?
It was somewhere in Utah, yes. And there was also a lesbian couple that did a public flash mob kind of proposal in Chicago. So these filmmakers sat down a bunch of younger kids and showed them these videos and had them react to it. It's a whole long video, which you can see on YouTube and which Andy will be happy to give you the link to. But we thought we'd show you the first 5 minutes of this. It's called Kids React. And, you know, how could we not start a Christmas show with kids talking about same-sex marriage? It's irresistible.
People are dancing in a Home Depot.
Oh, flash mob.
It's like an awesome flash mob. This is like my cheer dance thing.
Is that his family?
Grandparents?
Why is there a boy right there? And why are they dancing? I should be in that video.
His reaction, he's just like, oh my God.
Wait a second. Okay, so there's a guy getting proposed to, so...
He does have a nice suit, I have to say that.
When somebody proposes to me, that's what I want to happen.
How did they get Home Depot to approve this, though?
Is he a businessman?
That's cool.
Okay, so they're gay, but It's okay. Does he love him?
Good friends. Is he gonna propose?
I love you more than anything in this entire world.
A guy proposing to a guy?
By my side for the next.
Are they gay?
Will you marry me?
Marry who? You mean a boy marrying a boy?
That's nice.
Congratulations! This is crazy. How does a guy marry a guy? So they're gay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was so cute. And it doesn't matter if like they're gay or anything.
That was just so cute. I can't even. Okay.
Is it another marriage proposal?
A girl marrying a girl? Hi. Is that a girl? That's a little dangerous standing on a bus.
She just fell off.
A little over 6 years ago.
I met a girl.
You stole my heart. I feel like I know what kind of topic this is.
It's like the first thing you do, try to pinch yourself.
I belong to me. You belong to me, Mama sweet. I love this song. Will you marry me? How does a girl propose to a girl and how does a guy propose to a guy? Are they gay too? And there it comes. Yay!
Now say yes. Vote bot.
Aww,
Guessing it's a yes.
that was so adorable.
All of these videos are just too cute.
Well, this is new.
That's what I want to see a lot. Gay and lesbian people shouldn't be hiding.
Wait, what was that about?
What did both of those videos have happen in them?
Justin Bieber married a guy?
It wasn't Justin Bieber.
Oh.
2 marriage proposals, both with songs.
I was like in awe of them. Boy and a boy together and a girl and a girl. There's a guy proposing to a guy. That's just crazy. And then there was a girl proposing to a girl. That's just crazy.
How did the videos make you feel?
Good.
Made me feel good.
It was really cool.
I was so moved by that.
I'm sad. Gay is bad for you.
Why do you think that is bad?
Because I don't know.
What do you think people's reactions were when they watched these videos?
It depends for certain people. A lot of people were happy.
Really good, positive things.
I hope not negative things. Some people must have been like rock on, and some people were like, ew. Some people are so anti-gay.
You don't see that every day. It's okay though. A boy could like a boy or a girl could like a girl.
Most people, they would have a reaction like, it's not natural. It's normal now.
A lot of people were upset at these marriage proposals because it was a man proposing to a man and a woman proposing to a woman.
I don't get why anybody would be mad.
That's just wrong. Like, anyone should be able to marry anyone.
You should feel happy that they're getting married.
People that do not like gay, they're a group.
That makes me mad. You can't tell another person who to marry. What if you're a girl and your boyfriend proposes to you? That's not different from a girl proposing to a girl.
If you want to marry the same sex, that's okay. It's just like Macklemore said. I can't change even if I tried. Even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my...
So I hope our right-wing monitors are watching this and we'll watch the whole movie so that your heads will explode.
I hope if you're listening to this as an audio podcast that you'll go look at the video podcast.
Yes, the expressions are priceless.
They really are. And there's another 10 minutes of that. So really, send a note to andyhum@aol.com and he'll give you the link.
I think people are getting it.
Well, these kids certainly are. It's we spent several years of our lives working for the Hedrick Martin Institute and going to talk to kids like this about this. I will never forget the 4th grade girl who asked me if people of the same gender could get married, and I said no, because at that time, 20 years ago, they couldn't. And she put her hands on her hips and stood there and said, well, I think that's stupid. I think you should be able to marry anyone you want, even an elephant.
Well,
I agreed with her.
Well. Elephants are nice.
So that's our sort of happy news beginning to the Christmas show. And let's move on with another little happy story.
To our friend Gilbert Baker. You may not know the name, but you should. This is the father of the rainbow flag that you see flying everywhere. It was created by Gilbert Baker.
As an artist who, there's some story about the evolution of this. If you look it up on Wikipedia, you can get the whole story. But Gilbert has been an activist for 40 years at least, and did put together this concept of the rainbow flag. Originally 8 different colored stripes, each representing a different concept, reduced and simplified to 6 now. And the brilliant thing that Gilbert did was he never copyrighted it or trademarked it or took a penny off it. He gave it to the community as a symbol, and of course it is ubiquitous, and ubiquitous around the world. It is what you see every time you see LGBT people rising for their freedom.
Right.
So I think Russian, I may be making this up, filmmaker named Olga, did a little profile of Gilbert at home here in New York, making some rainbow banners and flags, which we've been using recently in demonstrations on the Russia issue. More about that after the Gilbert film. But this is a little Gilbert at home. Let's let you get to know Gilbert.
Human rights, right? Human rights, yes. Yes? Big? Yes. And then here it says, Russian thugs, yet.
I went from being a pretty dumb kid in Kansas, growing up in the 50s and all of the, the bomb scare in Eisenhower, and it's very Republican and straight there, and always feeling very outcast, feeling very different, always. I went from that place to a place of liberation. So I went from, Kansas to San Francisco at the very moment that gay rights was exploding. So for my journey, I didn't have to, fortunately go kill people in Vietnam, although I served in that era. My journey was one of liberation.
Cheesiest, cheapest sewing machine. I think I bought it at Target or Kmart. I think I paid $90 for it. Some of this Juki in money, that's pricey. Some of them are old school. That Singer back there is all metal. That's unusual.
I came to flags because I was really not cut out to be a fashion designer, truthfully. As much as I love sewing and making clothes and fashion and all of the design and all of that. First of all, I lived in San Francisco. Well, if you want to be a fashion designer, you live in New York or you live in Paris or Rome or Milan. So I was in the wrong town. But I was in the right town for gay rights. So even though I wasn't able to pursue my dreams of, being the next, Yves Saint Laurent or Halston, I was in the right town and I had the right skill to be able to create banners and really to work on the whole visual presence of protest. And that ultimately led to making the rainbow flag. Well, the rainbow came about 1978. In 1976 was the bicentennial of America, the 200th anniversary of the USA, and American flags were on everything. It was on clothes, it was on fashion. The American flag was celebrated in a way that you couldn't help but notice it on everything. And it gave me the idea that we could have a flag, gay people, that our tribe could have a flag. And because even though we're not a country and a nation, we're kind of a people, and I thought a flag is very useful as a symbol in terms of it proclaims power, it says something, it isn't a word or a logo like a gizmo graphically. It's something that can be interpreted a million different ways, a flag. Rainbow came from nature. I mean, this is San Francisco, or, it's a psychedelic era, it's all about color, we're a very colorful people. And then on a symbolic level, what I liked and what I think is still resonant is that it's all the colors. It's the idea of inclusion and the idea of using something from nature to represent that our sexuality is a human right, whatever color that may be.
I usually cover.
When the first flags went up on the flagpoles, Gay Freedom Day, 1978, June 25th, right that first moment of the first flags, which were huge and handmade, I knew it was going to change me. I knew that this was the most important thing I would ever do. It was like a bolt of lightning went right through my head, and I knew no matter what happened in my life that that moment would be really important in terms of what was going to happen to me, and it turned out that way. It first started in San Francisco, and then it was New York and LA, and it spread and it spread and it spread. And by 1994, when I made the mile-long flag for Stonewall 25 in New York City, by that time, which is only 16, 17 years later, it was around the world. Yeah, it started with something that I'm making with my hands and sewing it, and it's beautiful, but it became a phenomenon that the world embraced.
Like here's Grand Marshals, Los Angeles. This is a beautiful globe from Interpride. This is handmade in Montreal. This is the key to the city of Miami Beach. Pretty fabulous. Wichita, I grew up there. It was weird because nobody I knew came. I think they were all afraid.
Jeff, here, take my place right here. Yours? Yep. Yes, of course, anyone can be an activist, but it's not easy. And what does that mean, being active? I mean, I think first of all is you have to be free yourself. You have to have your own core values, and you have to have some courage. You have to have some steel, and that's really hard for a lot of people. They can't come out, their family situations. So to whatever degree that people can be, first of all, honest with themselves, that's the beginning of being an activist, is knowing who you are. You bet it's dangerous, and that's why it takes a lot of love. I think you have to have people around you you can't do it by yourself. You have to build bridges, you have to have a loving environment, loving friends, people that you trust and support to work together to achieve it. I just don't think that individuals are able to achieve as much as the mass.
You can't achieve as much if you don't have a banner. I mean,
These banners have been spectacular for this whole Russian campaign.
This is for everybody to think about. Just a couple of people showing up with a couple of, tiny little signs. This makes an impression. This is actually, they do stuff like this in Russia. Yeah. As well. So yeah, I would urge people around the country to think about that. Making big banners to send your message out. It amplifies your voice.
Amplifies geometrically what we have been able to accomplish on Russia by just throwing these banners in people's faces at the Metropolitan Opera, at the Russian consulate, at the New York Stock Exchange, which is what you saw there.
Carnegie Hall.
Carnegie Hall. And that human rights, yes, Russian thugs, Niet banner is in my house right now.
Okay.
But the Stock Exchange was the last action you saw there. And one thing that we wanted to show you was about that, because for a week or two we did this campaign because Russian businessmen and politicians were coming to New York to drum up business for Russians. So we attacked those meetings, and finally this was supposed to culminate in Russia Day at the New York Stock Exchange. They do these days periodically. They fly the country's flag, they have country representatives ring the closing bell, and they do a conference with the officials.
So you were putting on the pressure, and an activist named Bert Leatherman, working from Brazil.
All by himself.
Well, he's an American, but it was writing directly to Duncan Niederauer, who was the CEO of the New York Stock Exchange, with an intensely personal message and shoving in his face the faces of all these Russian gays who have either been killed or maimed by the thugs who have been let loose by Putin.
So Russia Day comes at the New York Stock Exchange. We show up outside with these banners. It turns out that they are not flying the Russian flag outside, which we noticed and were thrilled by. What we didn't realize was that they had also told the Russians they were not going to be allowed to ring the closing bell. But what they did do was their little conference inside. So what we're going to show you is a video of this Niederauer sitting with the top Russian official side by side at the start of this conference, and Niederauer does a few minutes of introduction to this conference with the Russian official forced to be silent and squirming in his seat.
I think your activism had some effect.
I think it had a big effect. So, and we've laid a few pictures of our graphics over Niederauer for a few seconds too. But here's what Mr. Niederauer sat there and said right in the face of the Russian official.
Now, as Scott said, this is the third time we're doing this. I want to be very clear about a few things. These days we do, focused on regions or countries, are not to blindly promote investment opportunities in a specific region or jurisdiction, but it's really to assess the opportunities as well as the challenges and have an open and honest review. So it's in this vein, before we begin, that I would be remiss if I did not mention a group of demonstrators that is likely to organize out front. I think it'll be a fairly small group, but there will be a group out front at Federal Hall later today who are demonstrating this forum. In fact, last week, provoked by this event, we received a petition strongly encouraging us to cancel this forum. Now, I think there's a lot of great things about the United States. That includes free speech, the right to peacefully assemble, and the right to petition, among other things. So I want to be clear on behalf of my colleagues, all the people I work with globally, our clients and our partners. The New York Stock Exchange abhors discrimination of any kind, and we have a strong commitment to supporting equal rights for all, regardless of their sexual orientation. Now, given today's discussion, I think it's important to note when we talk about the opportunities and challenges to make an investment anywhere, discriminatory policies absolutely have a negative impact and have a real impact on companies' decision-making processes. With regard to LGBT rights or related human rights, companies regularly make it clear to me as the CEO of the NYSE that this inhibits their likelihood of investing. They also have to think long and hard about whether they want to send people into a jurisdiction where they think they may have to fear for their safety. And there's obviously reputational risk associated with doing so. So we took this petition pretty seriously, and we consulted with our LGBT partners, of which there are many, and our own employees. And I took their advice, which was constructive and supportive, and they were among those encouraging us to proceed with this forum. And some may ask why. Our view is pretty simple. We hold these forums because we believe our convening power allows us to have a very open and candid dialogue around any issue, and we encourage everyone to speak their mind. Sustainable development, in our view, is only achievable when opportunities are equal for all, regardless of anyone's race, gender, or sexual orientation. And I think we would not be the partner that our LGBT allies count on us to be, and that we pride ourselves in being, if I did not at least spend a minute or two with you on that issue. Now, I do that in the spirit that I have gleaned from many meetings I have had over the years in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, and in Davos, among other places, where what is always clear at those meetings is the opportunities as well as the challenges are given equal time. I have never been to a meeting in a forum like this discussing opportunities in Russia where the Russian delegation has not been very open and candid about talking about some of the weaknesses or issues that might hold back people from investing. And I'm sure you can count on that today. Now, we may be adding human rights to that list, but historically that list has included investor protection, corporate governance, rule of law, things like that. Corruption. I think these are all issues, and we can now add human rights to that list, that I think are important to discuss, but I'm sure we will have an open debate today. Now, what I'd like to ask Sergey to start is, these are not new things that we've heard. I've been to Davos and at the breakfast that is sponsored by Sberbank and others every year. They poll the audience and say, what's keeping you from investing more in Russia? And typically, investor protection and corporate governance are right near the top of the list. So Sergey, if I may, thank you again for being here. Thank you for your candor. It would have been easy for both of us not to do this, and I appreciate your being here. It means a lot to us and to the crowd.
Now, even if we send you this video, you don't get to hear Sergei's response. I was dying to hear his response.
Well, I think his body language was revelatory. Again, watch the video podcast. Yes. Don't just listen to this.
Thank you, Duncan Niederauer.
Yeah, I have to say that was my favorite. So that was quite stunning. I laugh every time I look at it. But now we want to move on to a couple of other things.
It was a great year for coming out.
It was. And the next video we're going to show you has to do with sports. So we will remind you that there were several big comings out in the sports world. First, Robbie Rogers, the soccer player, who in an unprecedented move came out and quit as he was coming out, feeling he couldn't play, and he got called back and is now playing Major League Soccer.
And Olympic diver, the bronze medalist in the last Olympics, Tom Daley, who was going to quit diving, but when he came, he met Dustin Lance Black, fell in love. Dustin encouraged him, no, get back to diving, and he's going to be trying to dive in the next Olympics.
And, of course, the NBA's Jason Collins still waiting to be called to some team before the playoffs begin, which is still possible, but meanwhile, he's showing up at the UN to talk about
So it's tough in the sports world, but more and more college players are coming out.
And these are major league players, whether it's the Olympics or major league sports or whatever, and they're men. And that's unusual. We're more used to seeing
more women coming out.
Yeah, soccer players, tennis players, whatever, even golfers. So what we have next is something from the You Can Play project, which was actually started by the National Hockey League by a coach in memory of his gay son who had died in an accident, I think. And so there's this project called You Can Play that is major league teams supporting gay players, out gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender players. And this is a video made by athletes and coaches at the University of North Carolina.
Who refer to themselves as Tar Heels, which is what they are.
Yeah, and what we like about it is the diversity of the faces, presumably most of them straight. They're not identified by sexual orientation. But the concept of allies, well, Niederauer is an ally, too. I like that.
I don't know what his sexual orientation is.
No, but I'm going to guess there are gay people in his family because he's very conversant. But let's look at the University of North Carolina talking about You Can Play.
Sexual orientation shouldn't matter in sports, just like it should matter in the classroom or anywhere else. You are who you are, and successful teams are supportive of everybody on their roster.
You are who you are, and we should all support that. Everyone deserves a chance to play.
Everyone should have an equal opportunity to achieve greatness, no matter what.
You should be supportive of all your teammates, regardless of sexual preference.
As soon as you dove in the water, nothing mattered, whether that was your sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. The only thing that mattered was who got their hand on the wall first.
There are all these people in the world who are completely different from one another, which is such an incredible thing.
It is important for all LGBT student athletes to be accepted by the people they spend most of their time with.
Sports is a way to bring people together, and we're going to fight to do that.
I think anybody who can play the sport deserves an opportunity to play, so we can't discriminate on them based on whatever it may be. So I think if they can play, they can play.
If you're my teammate and you're going to work hard for our team, that's all that should matter.
A team is a unit, and it shouldn't be broken down by discrimination.
Because everyone should feel 100% comfortable with being themselves.
Everyone deserves to play and have an equal opportunity. I love everyone.
I think that everybody should have the opportunity to play and be successful.
A great coach once told me that college athletics was about learning how to exhaust your potential and become your authentic self. And I think that applies to any student athlete, regardless of race, gender, creed, sexual orientation, or anything that makes them who they are.
Once you nail a dive, no one's thinking about your sexual orientation. If you can rip a dive, you can rip a dive. If you can play, you can play.
If you can block, you can block. If you can catch, you can catch.
Och om du kan spela fotboll så kan du spela fotboll.
If you can play, you can play.
If you can shoot, you can shoot. If you can play, you can play.
If you can lax, you can lax.
If you can hit, you can hit. And at the end of the day, if you can play, you can play.
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 如果你可以上场比赛，你就可以上场比赛。
If you can play, you can play.
I'm Katherine Perry, and I'm proud to be a Tar Heel.
I am, and I will always be proud to be a Tar Heel.
I'm Kelly McFarland, and I'm proud to be a Tar Heel.
Go Heels!
Go Heels.
Go Heels.
I was out gay in the Atlantic Coast Conference in the 70s on the bowling team.
Well, I just hope even participating in these videos makes people more LGBT friendly and helps them spread the word.
Yeah.
And of course, the other major area that we look at is entertainment, for better or worse.
Actors have always had a hard time coming out because they're afraid they're going to lose roles and they're not going to get cast and they'll be blah, blah, that kind of stuff.
Big deal is my answer.
But some did this year, even Jodie Foster. Officially.
That was actually my favorite. It was tough. You could see her struggle, and I loved seeing her struggle. It wasn't a smooth effort.
And Jim Nabors only came out because he wanted to get married, and folks, you got to come out if you want to get married to the person of the same sex.
One of the most recent, Maria Bello, she's adorable.
The British actors, Ben Whishaw finally did it, and Andrew Scott, who's in the Sherlock Holmes series as Moriarty.
And on TV, the NBC News personalities Jenna Wolfe and Stephanie Gosk came out as a couple and having a baby.
So the one we're going to show you now is an actor I was not familiar with, a young Australian actor. He's been in a couple of worldwide movies like Accidents Happened with Gina Davis in 2009 and Caught Inside in 2010. He's mainly a TV star in Australia, but he's 22 years old. And so he's struggling with this. You can tell he's taping this thing, and am I going to hit this button and tell the whole world? Well, we thought it was rather charming.
And his name is Harry Cook, and here is Harry Cook's open struggle with coming out.
Hey, Harry Cook here, and I've been thinking about doing this video now for a while. Kind of talked myself into it, talked myself out of it. Talk myself into it, talk myself out of it. Now I'm back here after talking myself into it again, so I'm just going to do it. Because life's too short to be anything but yourself. So on that note, I'm gay. There you have it. There's a few reasons why I was really kind of scared to say it to begin with. One was I thought I might get backlash for it. Two, I had a feeling that not many people give a shit anyway. I had a feeling that not many people cared what I had to say, so I didn't really see the point in saying anything. And three, the industry I work in, unfortunately, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes studios, producers, directors, whatever, sometimes they can be kind of closed-minded in a sense that they sometimes would think if you're gay as a person, you wouldn't be able to play a straight role. And I thought about it for a really long time, and I really kind of stewed over it, and was like, oh my god, this could ruin my career, and all this crap. And then it kind of hit me that that is so ridiculous. You know, my job, my title of my job is actor. I act. It's fake. It's pretend. I'm not me. So there's no logic behind that. I mean, trust me, I know how to play straight. I did it all through high school, so got it down to a fine art. So that was that, and then I started thinking of all the good things that could come out of coming out, and one of them is just the relief that I'm getting right now just saying this video. It's just such relief knowing that I'm not going to have to put up a mask every time I leave the house or bump into somebody or go to an event or do an interview or do, you know, a radio thing or, you know, whatever. I can be open and I can be honest and I can be who I am, because there's nothing more painful than having to lie, because it's lying. That's what it is. When I'm not being open and I'm not being myself, I just feel like a liar and I don't feel right, and that doesn't sit right with me, and I don't want to live my life like that because it's tiring. So yeah, I mean, I've got so much to be happy for. I'm madly in love. I've got an amazing family, a good career, and I'm happy. And I didn't want to have to go through life hiding anything. I really don't. That's not my idea of living. So, anyone out there watching who does care, thanks for taking the time to listen, and for your support. And yeah, just thank you. I'm going to leave it there. But thanks for listening. Thanks for click and play, and thanks for being awesome.
Thank you, Harry.
Exactly. Thank you for being thoughtful. The whole thing about lying, it is lying, and we're so used to, or those who are not out are so used to assuming that the normal way to live is to hide. But in fact, it's not, and telling the truth is a much better way to live.
Feels better.
Well, I've been very struck always by people associated with the Boy Scouts or even the military talking about how antithetical that hiding and lying is to the code they supposedly live by. There is an honor code in those organizations and in lots of others, and you swear an oath to tell the truth and to be honorable, and then you're, on the other hand, expected to lie or
oftentimes because they are young people when they're going into those situations and they haven't even come to terms with who they are. And
Absolutely.
then they discover it and they
Yes.
and then they hit the conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is, I think, important to see someone working through this issue out loud
Yes.
in front of his
Very
little
well.
camera phone.
And he said it's a great relief.
Yeah.
And it is.
And, there were other people who Clive Davis, it took him till, how old is he? 80?
He's in his 80s, is bisexual.
Yeah. And on the other end of the spectrum, Magic Johnson's son, Irvin Johnson III, came out. Now, he was not hiding.
No.
There was no way he was hiding. But what was so remarkable about that story was how supportive Magic is. There isn't an ounce of hesitation in
Right
him.
in there.
He is sending him out there to be exactly who he is.
Not to mention Jennifer Pritzker, who is a billionaire, CEO of a wealth management firm, who came out as transgender.
From a hugely wealthy Chicago family. Jennifer's sister or cousin or someone, Penny Pritzker, is now working for Obama. So that was big. And Chelsea Manning, for heaven's sakes.
As transgender. And the one, of course, I guess I admire
Well, when
them.
I'm sorry, the idea that you're being prosecuted for being a traitor to the United States, for having revealed secrets that you've taken in the military as a communications person, and in the middle of all this you come out as transgender, is just stunning.
Absolutely.
Stunning.
Absolutely. And I think the bravest, Russian journalist Anton Kravatsky, who was a television presenter, news person, and came out and was immediately fired and has to lead a new life now.
Well, as opposed to a Jenna Wolfe and Stephanie Gosk or a Thomas Roberts or an Anderson Cooper, all of whom took their time coming out, but certainly have not been fired. If anything, it's probably helped their careers, or some of them anyway. Although I'm still a little annoyed at Thomas Roberts.
Well, we'll have to have a sit down, just like we did with Duncan Niederauer.
Why did he have to go work with Donald Trump and go to Russia and say, well, I haven't been discriminated against?
Maybe when he reads some of the stories that have come out at the end of the year about Russia, he will change his tune.
Well, he now sits on his show back in the comfort of New York City on MSNBC and talks about all the terrible things happening to people in Russia. But when he went to Russia, he said very little.
Right. And, and again, well, we can go on and on about that.
We won't. But we want to swing back full circle to marriage, because one of the pieces of video that impressed us this year was something that popped up in the middle of the debate in Hawaii.
Where it all got started.
20 years ago. So that came full circle. This is coming full circle because we want to show you a speech on the floor of the House.
By Representative Ng.
Yes, and he, as a straight ally, talked about the evolution of his feelings about same-sex marriage and his family's. Evidently, his father was in the legislature and voted against it 20 years ago.
This is a 9-minute speech.
And it's really moving.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of Senate Bill 1 relating to equal rights.
Please proceed.
Thank you. A couple days ago, I spoke to young mainstream Christians. Today I have a broader message. In 1998, my parents voted on a constitutional amendment to reserve marriage between one woman and one man. I remember the commercials. Vote yes for traditional marriage. Our family liked that one. And vote no on the constitutional amendment. That one was bad. You see, like most 9-year-olds, morality was a very black and white concept. There's right, and then there's wrong. I carried a due north, due south moral compass oriented primarily on what my incredibly loving parents, hi mom, taught me. And they, along with my church, taught me that being gay was bad. But in October 1998, a few weeks before that vote, something happened that shook and recalibrated my young conscience. Matthew Shepard, a gay teenager going to college in Wyoming, was inhumanely tortured and murdered by straight classmates. A hate crime that made national news. He was tied to a fence and beat with a pistol and left to bleed to death. I remember discussing this with a friend of mine from church, and my friend said, "Good for him. God says he is evil." But I knew in my young heart that no one deserved this kind of brutality. No one. This is where my convictions began. You see, if we want to understand this or any gay rights issue, we need to understand the LGBT experience. Many of us just can't grasp what it'll be like. Until college, like many of the testifiers here, I thought being gay was a lifestyle choice that went against nature. But when you actually hear from the LGBT community, as we on your joint committee on finance and Judd have witnessed, it is clearly not a choice. In fact, many gay people who testified last week proclaimed that as teenagers, they fought who they are and tried to force themselves straight. Many face self-loathing and torment because of this, and thank God that unlike the thousands of gay teenagers that take their own lives every year, these brave people persevered and they were able to be here today in front of a less than friendly crowd to stand up like champions for equal rights for all. For those opponents who say this isn't about civil rights, I challenge you to tell that with a clear conscience to Alan Spector, who had the love of his life deported back to South America because his postdoctoral research funding expired. I challenge you to tell that to Kimberly Allen, who was not allowed to see her life partner in the hospital during the last hours of her life. I challenge you to tell that to Tamara Young, who had to reconsider adoption and delay forming the family she desired because of the cost without the rights and benefits of marriage. Tell that to Bart Zowel, a soldier fighting for his freedom who was called a flaming homo mistake by a rank-and-file superior. Tell that to Jeremy Wright, who slipped into depression trying to force or pray himself straight. And I challenge you to tell that to the parents of Matthew Shepard, that the suffering and the tragic death of their own son that they experienced is not sufficient to call this a civil rights issue. Tell these people, hold on until the majority is ready. Tell them they must continue to suffer inequality and hate because other people are not ready to grant them full equality. Can you do that with a clear conscience? Some testifiers have spoken about this bill ushering in an onslaught of gay lifestyle. And they challenged your committee members, Mr. Speaker. Would you wish homosexuality upon your own kids? So I really thought about this. If the gay lifestyle they speak of pertains to the highly successful physicians, attorneys, economists, a world-renowned microbiologists and psychologists that we've seen testify, if this gay lifestyle pertains to the inspiringly committed couples who have been together for decades, yet are still viewed as strangers in the eyes of their government. If this gay lifestyle that they're referring to pertains to these brave people boldly standing in the face of hate to fight for equal rights for all, if that's what the gay agenda will bring, if that's how my gay children will be like, then hey, sign me up. I'll take 3. And please, don't write scripts for your kids to tell me that children need a mother and a father in order to be raised right. When my father passed away when I was a young child, and just like our junior U.S. Senator, and just like our Hawaii-born President of the United States, I come from a single-parent home. Don't tell me that I and my brothers and sisters who are excelling in sports, academics, and art, that we are any lesser than your child.
Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Especially in Hawaii, where Hanai adoption is enshrined in tradition, where multi-generational families are valued just as much as our kupuna are, and where diversity is the hallmark of our aloha spirit. We need to embrace empirical evidence stating that the nuclear family is no better off than other familial structures. Our children need to continue to learn that in Hawaii, we're all equal, no matter your sexual orientation, and no matter how your family is structured. You see, I live in Kihei, with one of the largest gay populations in the state, and with the majority of my constituents in support. But for my colleagues who have the majority in their districts in opposition, let me leave you with this. In high school, my friends, just like most kids in high school, we used gay, the word gay, kind of as an insult, or as a great philosopher Macklemore said, as synonymous with the lesser. We hurled it at each other as to make fun of each other. And one day, a gay classmate of mine, he was walking to band class. He tripped and he dropped a glass jar that was full of paper stars. They're colorful stars. And my friend started laughing at him. Now, I felt bad. So I went over there and helped him. And that didn't make me really cool. As a matter of fact, every time we walked by that guy later on, my friends would say, hey, there goes your boyfriend. But I did it not because it was the popular thing to do, but because it was the right thing to do. Standing up for this individual did not make me popular, but it was the right thing to do. Just because the numerical majority is in one place, it does not mean they're in the right place. We are in a position right now that we must lead our state to the right place. Sometimes the right thing to do goes against the popular thing to do. While I cannot take my parents' 1998 vote back, the people placed me in a position where I can help correct an injustice here in Hawaii. And I am prepared to face the consequences of my vote. I have, to me, this bill is about love and acceptance. In Hawaii, we call it aloha. One person in the audience stated that it's the wrong love. I don't agree. Again, I agree with Macklemore. It's the same love. I have one last question. How many more gay people must God create until we realize that He wants them here? How many more gay people must God create until we realize that He wants them here? Mr. Speaker, let the people decide who they marry.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Well, very moving.
Very, and we are going to take his hint and get to philosopher Macklemore in a second. First, I want to. You're quite moved.
Well, I mean, when people get it like that.
Yes, it's very moving. I want to correct my previous statement. His parents weren't in the legislature. They were part of the population
They
that
were voters,
voted.
and they thought they were voting to ban same-sex marriage, but Hawaii is not that anti-gay a place. And all they put on the ballot was can the legislature regulate marriage?
Yes.
In which case they voted for that, and then the legislature did ban same-sex marriage, but immediately gave us reciprocal benefits.
Yes.
They always had some benefits in Hawaii, and they got civil unions a year or two ago. And, you know, even places like Florida, which have amendments, they got 40 cities there that have domestic partner benefits. That's going to all have an effect. So there's something everybody can do out there to move this along, even in the states which are, you know, not recognizing our marriages.
Gilbert Baker said in his video near the top of this show that he thought it took a group of people to make advances. But I think what we see on this show week after week after week, and have certainly seen all year, is that it can be one person or two people. Each of these singular speeches moves people, and certainly a small group or a larger group can do the same. But there is never a reason not to do something.
That's what Ann Northrop is always saying, and I constantly quote her, because it's not a matter of becoming a leader, or because some people write to us and say, well, you're leaders, you can do, no, everybody can do something.
You know, I see it in this Russia stuff, and my colleagues and I report to each other all the time about the leaders of the movement who say to them, oh, why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And this isn't important enough, or you're not going to make a difference, or where are you going to be 3 months from now when the Olympics are over? Those are just people who don't want to do anything about this and are making up excuses not to do it. And all we're asking you to do is do, you know, write a check, write a letter, do whatever works for you.
Something.
All right. But we want to thank you for following us all year. We will be right here for the foreseeable future. Thank you all. Write to andyhum@aol.com to get on the mailing list. And now, the immortal words of Macklemore and Ryan Lewis.
When I was in the 3rd grade, I thought that I was gay, cause I could draw. My uncle was, and I kept my room straight. I told my mom, tears rushing down my face. She's like, Ben, you've loved girls since before pre-K. Trippin'. Yeah, I guess she had a point, didn't she? Bunch of stereotypes all in my head. I remember doing the math, like, yeah, I'm good at Little League. A preconceived idea of what it all meant. But those that like the same sex have the characteristics. The right-wing conservatives think it's a decision, and you can be cured with some treatment in religion. Man-made rewiring of a predisposition, playing God. Oh nah, here we go. America the brave still fears what we don't know. And God loves all his children. It's somehow forgotten, but we paraphrase a book written 3,500 years ago. I don't know.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. And I can't change, even if I tried.
If I was gay, I would think hip-hop hates me. Have you read the YouTube comments lately? Man, that's gay, gets dropped on the daily. We become so numb to what we're saying. A culture founded from oppression, yet we don't have acceptance for them. Call each other faggots behind the keys of a message board. A word rooted in hate, yet our genre still ignores it. Gay is synonymous with the lesser. It's the same hate that's caused wars from religion. Gender to skin color, the complexion of your pigment. The same fight that led people to walkouts and sit-ins. It's human rights for everybody, there is no difference. Live on and be yourself. When I was at church, they taught me something else. If you preach hate at the service, those words aren't anointed. That holy water that you soak in has been poisoned when everyone else is more comfortable remaining voiceless rather than fighting for humans that have had their rights stolen. I might not be the same, but that's not important. No freedom till we're equal. Damn right I support it. Press play, don't press pause. Progress march on, with the veil over our eyes. We turn our back on the cause, till the day that my uncles can be united by law. When kids aren't walking around the hallway, plagued by pain in their heart. A world so hateful, some would rather die than be who they are. And a certificate on paper isn't gonna solve it all, but it's a damn good place to start. No law is gonna change us. We have to change us. Whatever God you believe in, we come from the same one. Strip away the fear, underneath it's all the same love. About time that we raised up.
I can't change.